despite the intense calls that it has been receiving for it to withdraw its troops, or rather reduce its presence in its former colonies in West Africa, and bring to an end the much talked about neocolonialism and imperialism. France has vowed that it will maintain a presence in some parts of the region, and will not be leaving any soon. The European nuclear superpower, which has various military bases across West Africa, has categorically stated that it will not exit from Niger, where there have been massive calls from the public for it to close its Niamey base and leave the country for good. In a clarification made on the Sunday of August 13, 2023 by Sébastien Lecornu, who is the French Minister of Defense, France will maintain its Niamey base despite the pressure, because it says its troops have a much bigger agenda in the Sahel and will not be distracted. The defense minister was speaking in an interview with a French newspaper called Var Matin when he responded to the current anti-France sentiments in West Africa, and clarified on the future of French troops in Niger. The first question he was asked were his views on whether he believes that France is currently undesirable in West African countries like Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. In his response, he said that undesirable is a very debatable adjective. We must not allow ourselves to be exploited by the narrative that's being deployed by our competitors on social networks or by a few demonstrations organized in front of French embassies. I don't think France is undesirable in those countries, the way it's being hyped on social networks. He was then asked on how he feels about the clear reality that France is losing its influence in Africa, day after the other, despite having made some significant steps in combating terrorism in the Sahel since the start of the French military intervention in the Sahel. His response to this question was that, "You are right to recall the military success of our army, but on the loss of influence, I do not share this observation. The reality is that France is particularly influential in Africa, and she is very exposed precisely because she is influential. And because we are very exposed, all that you are seeing is a pattern of destabilization maneuvers that are being employed by our competitors." He went ahead to say that, "Make no mistake about it, when the junta staged a coup in Mali, the Malian military stopped fighting terrorism, and today, 40% of Malian territory has been handed over to armed terrorist groups who threaten to reconstitute and form a caliphate." He even referred to the Sahel countries of Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso as being the new hotbed of terror, which is worryingly just an arm's length away from the Mediterranean Sea and Europe in particular. That, we cannot fail to see that a major terrorist hotbed is once again just a stone's throw from the shores of the Mediterranean. Let us not forget that the real victims of what is happening in the Sahel today are, above all, the people of Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali and of those other concerned countries. Then, speaking of the Niger crisis, the defense minister was asked on whether he is in support of an ECOWAS intervention, or whether he fears that it might spiral out of control and bring more harm than good. His response was that, "We as France have no any fears. We support the actions of ECOWAS, whose ultimate objective is the restoration of constitutional order in Niger and the return of President Mohamed Bazoum. France therefore affirms its full support for all the conclusions of the ECOWAS summit, which took place on the Thursday of August 10th. The final question he was asked on the Niger crisis was on whether the immense pressure that French forces are witnessing in Niger, and generally the tense situation in the region, is making them uncomfortable. His precise response on the same being that, "Our soldiers are used to complicated situations. They know what they are doing in the Sahel and what's the meaning of their mission. It is important to remember that we are present in Niger because we are engaged in the fight against terrorism, and that our presence was requested by legitimate authorities in Niger. This is the heart of the mission. The war in Ukraine has made some Western observers so short-sighted that we no longer speak of the fight against terrorism in our public debates, but the terror threat is real and closer to our shores than you can imagine." His final remarks were that, "We will remain committed to our mission in the Sahel, for the safety of our borders and greater good of our people." Do you support this firm stand by France to maintain its presence in Niger? Leave your thoughts on this in the comments below and don't forget to subscribe before leaving.